Welcome to our series, We're Here to Help. A series of tutorials on the most commonly done processes at the Student Business Services office at Estrella Mountain Community College. Let's get started on the dependent tuition waiver process. For the purposes of this form and this process, a dependent is an individual who is the spouse or unmarried dependent under the age of 24 of an employee of the Maricopa Community College district. The waivers cover up to 16 credit hours. Waivers do not cover fees or out-of-state tuition charges. If a student is taking classes at multiple campuses, one waiver must be filled out for each campus each semester. The process begins with the employee the first time using this benefit. Step 1 is for the employee who fills out a dependent eligibility form for each dependent. This process should only have to be done once. The first time the student intends to use a dependent tuition waiver, the process will take extra time for the eligibility process, but each subsequent time should be quicker. Although the student begins the process, the employee should already have listed their dependent previously or simultaneously as the student begins the enrollment process. To be clear, the second time a dependent tuition waiver is used, an eligibility form is already on file and does not need to be filled out moving forward. The process begins with the employee the first time using this benefit. Step 1 is for the employee who fills out a dependent eligibility form for each dependent. This process should only have to be done once. The first time the student intends to use a dependent tuition waiver, the process will take extra time for the eligibility process, but each subsequent time should be quicker. Although the student begins the process, the employee should already have listed their dependent previously or simultaneously as the student begins the enrollment process. To be clear, the second time a dependent tuition waiver is used, an eligibility form is already on file and does not need to be filled out moving forward. To find this form, copy and paste the eligibility form link down from the description box. Next, the student will fill in their course data from their schedule. This data should be filled in accurately with the course, class, and section numbers. All data should match what is on the student schedule located in the Student Center. The college chosen should be the college at where the courses are to be taken, which may or may not be the same college at which the employee is working. For the term drop-down box, choose the correct term, and it should be noted that waivers are usually not available more than 60 days prior to the start of the semester. So, if the course is in the fall but fall is not listed, please wait until the correct updated form is available to fill out later in the year. To finish the dependent waiver, select the dependent status in the drop-down menu. Review and agree to the terms and conditions. Finally, provide an electronic signature and date. The very last step for the student is to enter the employee's information such as the MEID and name. The student will not have the ability to update the daytime phone, employee class, or job location. The final button is Submit Form. Now the student portion is done. There will be a confirmation email sent to the student email on file. If the student and employee share a computer and if the student pays online in the Student Center, please remember to log out of the Student Center and close the browser. Now the employee can sign on. Now it's time for the employee to start their process. The dependent tuition waiver will be routed to the spouse or parent's Maricopa work email. The employee will receive the following email with a hyperlink, shown on screen as Dynamic Forms, to complete their portion of the dependent tuition waiver. The employee will complete the employee information portion, entering their daytime phone number and updating their employee class and job location in the drop-down menu. The employee will complete the employee's statement of certification, understanding, and agreement. After both the student and employee have completed their portions of the dependent tuition waiver, the request is sent to Student Business Services at the campus selected on the waiver. If any errors are found on the waiver, such as wrong campus or mismatched classes, for example, the form will be returned to the student's campus email address to correct and resubmit. If no action is taken within 30 days of the returned waiver, the waiver will be archived and the process would need to begin again. Payment will need to be made for the registration fee and, if applicable, class fees prior to the request being processed. If there are out-of-state fees, those are also not covered by the tuition waiver. In conclusion, there are 4 steps that are done in a specific sequence. The employee fills out the eligibility form. Then the student fills out the dependent waiver form, and once signed it is automatically forwarded to the employee. Then the employee finishes the waiver and, once electronically signed, is forwarded to the SBS staff to complete. Finally, payment of fees need to be made prior to application of the waiver to the tuition. Waivers cannot be applied to semesters that have already ended. Thank you for watching. We hope you found this helpful in filling out the dependent tuition waiver. If you have questions, you may reach the Student Business Services office Mondays through Thursdays from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Fridays from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., not including summertime or holidays. Or please visit us in person at the Kamaki Enrollment Center building. You can also chat us at the link in the video description box.